Zrcalo is a 34-year-old furry artist from Arizona that has dedicated a portion of his online history to LARPing as a zoophile hunter. The most notable traits consist of being an associate of the infamous Douglas Frosty Spink, taking credit for Akira the Wolf being outed as a zoo sadist, as well as putting multiple minors in harm's way during this charade, exposing some of them to zoophiles for personal gain, while orbiting others to date at a later time, regardless of being just shy of double their age. According to Zrcalo themselves, all things he has done in the name of clout and e-fame. In this video, I plan to discuss the majority of this, but for now, let's give ourselves a backstory. Let's see for ourselves just how expansive the reprehensible history of Zrcalo can be. One of the earliest traces that can be found on this individual happened to be an 11-year-old introduction style video, where a Zrcalo in his 20s talks about what he does in the furry fandom online, identified by his dead name as this video is dated before his transition. In this video, he talks about his pastime of fursuit creation.
First one, I make fursuits for a living. He's got some foam bits on them. I make these out of foam, and then I put fur on them. As you can see, it's beautiful, very realistic.
Working for a website that designs virtual pet canines.
I work for a website called lodges.com. It means dog in Cherokee, and it's like a little virtual pet site. I design little dogs, really cute. And this is a commission online. Framed it.
As well as their specialization in drawing gore-related works.
And then one thing that I absolutely specialize in with the furry fandom is gore. Here is a gory picture of furries.
Something that feels oddly brushed over in this video, but that might just be Zrcalo's trademark style of lol random humor, as inferred by the video's ending line.
Come see my giant
Outside of their furry-related work was a range of seemingly tame endeavors and rather disturbing displays by Zrcalo. Of the tame variety would be Zrcalo scamming a child by accepting a $15 commission and going radio silent for a month in 2018. There was also a 2006 song done by Zrcalo under the alias ZSIS, allegedly standing for Zoo Necro Sadism. Yeah, that's the tame part. On the disturbing side of the spectrum, we would have an edited video from one of Zrcalo's YouTube channels containing footage of a family, spliced with that of experiments being carried out on the severed heads of dogs, an uncensored and removed beating heart being shown multiple times throughout this footage. The title, Human Experimentation, denotes this edited video as a class project, combining the two videos to fit the horror topic he was assigned. Alone, this is slightly unnerving, but it becomes even more so when combined with that of a 2009 video where he presents a taxidermied fox puppet he created.
Just twist the wire this way, twist the wire the other way. Oh, hi. Oh, I like it. Hey you, what are you looking at? He's like, I'm hungry, give me some food. Oh, he's attacking me, he's attacking me. I'm just kidding.
Again, just seeing him with this craft alone is a rather unnerving sight. But if you wanted to, for whatever reason, you can simply brush it off as an artist being eccentric with their work. But as time went on, this inference would become less and less excusable. Okay, so I'm editing this now, and somehow I managed to skip over probably the most damning thing in this entire section. I don't know how. So, Zrcalo has been the owner of multiple pet birds. However, similarly to the fox mentioned before, he would not only use these animals for taxidermy purposes, but he would essentially abuse them in his ownership. This would range from amputating some of them, leaving others outside in terrible weather conditions, and even killing one of them himself to create a bird taxidermy tutorial out of it. Say what you will, but I don't think being an eccentric artist excuses animal cruelty. Altfurry groups were odd, primarily right-wing groups that spent their time waging drama against their left-leaning opposition. These groups consisted of users such as Foxler of the Furry Raiders, Len Gilbert of Xanadu, as well as Blum the Wolf of Diaper Fur and Drama Hound fame. Zrcalo decided that this would be the perfect group to get behind, supporting the group on their Holocaust-denial endeavors up until Foxler went too far in Zrcalo's eyes. The Furry Raiders leader supporting Kero the Wolf as the allegations of Zeus sadism emerged. Arguments would emerge in the group due to Foxler's stance, irritating him to the point that he decided to leak the contents of a moderator-exclusive chat in late 2018. While nothing conclusive seems to have stemmed from their time in this group, it does paint a display of the type of people Zrcalo believes ideal to hang around, if not for company, for personal gain. Having a group to back him up in whatever god-awful scheme he may be planning. Although, the support of an animal abuse condoner and known child luster can only go so far. How far did it go, you ask? As said before, Kero the Wolf would be outed as a member of a ZooSadist Telegram chat in 2018. Something a number of people may forget is that the leaker of this information didn't leak it with animal safety in mind. The leaker, Aleka, leaked the logs to try and make a differentiation between ZooSadists and zoophiles, when in reality, both are condoning the abuse of animals by trying to normalize a sexual attraction to Fido. Upon finding out about their motives when the logs dropped, you could see Zrcalo team up with the original leaker, the two forming a group by the title of ZSIS, or ZSIS. It's probably not ZSIS, but that makes it easier to pronounce, so let's go with that. ZSIS was pitched as this group that would assist in getting to the bottom of these leaked logs against Kero and other ZooSadists in the chat, when in reality, Kero seemed to be an afterthought of the group. A convicted zoophile by the name of Douglas Spink would find himself inside the group, gaining Zrcalo's friendship in the process. And that wasn't the end of it either. A number of zoos joined ZSIS in an attempt to hide information concerning their animal-screwing posse. This included Nicholas Spawn, or Tane, a zoosadist who was not only present in the logs that Zrcalo will later claim that he was responsible for leaking, but he had one of the longest messaging histories in the logs. Surely Tane wasn't looking for a way to keep his own reputation clean through this group, right? The group that also included the Pedo Zoo and Tim Wynn associate who went by Gar at the time. Being so close to this absolute heinous blemish, Gar's motive for joining the group was to convince the others to spread a false dox about Tim Wynn, to get people off that foul shit-stained scent. And now you're probably wondering to yourself, ZSIS let in the exact people they were trying to expose to the light, right? How could they screw up any harder? Well, by allowing the Altfurry to get in on the action. Altfurry members such as Len Gilbert would take the opportunity to use the group as a vessel to troll the libs, leading to even more misinformation being pushed out by this group. One campaign they would try to push would be that of Dogpatch Press protecting Simba, the leader of Furry Valley. They would allege that Dogpatch was hiding evidence against the group because he didn't know about Furry Valley before they went by that moniker. I'm sure that it was a sound campaign that totally proved Dogpatch was wrong about Furry Valley, and that it just so happened to be orchestrated by people who saw him as an enemy. You see, it was just odd timing, as this was around the same time Zrcalo made an appearance on the Furry Valley podcast, then known as the Furry Menagerie. His appearance yields nothing special, other than showing his past affiliation with the heinous group. As for the content, they simply had him on to take the opposing side to the question, is being furry healthy? I found myself agreeing with them to an extent near the beginning.
And, underage kids, when I joined Neopets, of course I lied about my age, to get on Neopets. And as a moderator on a different server and stuff, we have had issues where people who would lie about their underage status, and then, we've caught them and say, hey, you cannot be in here. We've also talked to people who have been like, oh, well, I wasn't into any of this stuff until I talked to older individuals and then eventually got into it, and now it's taken over my life.
But after looking through a chunk of Zrcalo's history, I can't help but to see a small bit of foreshadowing beneath that personal experience.
And I think a lot of people that get engrossed in these sort of infighting furry drama stuff, they don't look outside of that. And I think a lot of people are attracted to this sort of drama, and it means that they want to express their own control over things, or they want to warp things, and I think the furry fandom opens its doors too much to a lot of these types of people.
Yep, we sure do. But back to ZSIS. Regardless of nothing being done by the group in terms of actually outing any animal abusers in the fandom, there were a number of people with actual hopes of outing these predators that sadly joined their ranks until their inevitable disbandment. With the amount of attempted cover-ups and nonsensical smear campaigns going nowhere, ZSIS was simply destined to fail. A failure that would be followed by Zrcalo grandstanding about sabotage within the group, and how he should be getting more respect for having led the investigation when he was simply leeching off the work of Akela. And not just that, he claimed that he was responsible for outing not only Kiro, but the ZooStruggs wolf from Cuba as well. He was dead set on trying to be the face of the entire operation, that he did almost nothing when it came to the actual predators. In fact, you can argue that this little stunt by Zrcalo only went on to help these predators out more. I mean, a group they could infiltrate to hide their animal abusing antics from the outside? Sure sounds like a boon for the predators to me. Would explain why he's so eager to push the blame off himself, having to take credit from a dogfucker to do so. And speaking of stolen valor, the Struggs moniker that Zrcalo is mostly known under today should serve more as a warning sign than an actual alias, solely due to the fact of who he took the naming convention from. There used to be a Twitter account by the name of Zoophile Struggle Tweets, or ZooStruggs for short. Some may know this name as just another one of Zrcalo's gimmick accounts, when in reality, his ownership of the account should have been seen as a much brighter red flag. Because before Zrcalo owned the account, this account was owned and run by two different moderators, two mods that found themselves in a back and forth against Zrcalo. Now, how did these two accounts come across each other? Well, it all started when the original ZooStruggs mods would release a callout post on Bluuy, or Drama Hound. In an effort to protect Blum, Zrcalo would step into the fray to protect his previously Altfurry companion. But he didn't go about this one alone. You see, Zrcalo would incite a mob against ZooStruggs for calling out their friend. And while he didn't explicitly call for Zoophiles to help him stand against ZooStruggs, I do wonder who could have been against an account making fun of people thinking they should fuck animals. So with a newfound animal-screwing posse, Zrcalo would go on to only damn himself further. Now before I read this, I want to remind you that these words came from someone who holds themselves as a zoophile hunter. Someone who displays themselves as an opposition to animal fondlers everywhere. I remind you of this to say that no zoophile hunter would align himself with the tweet I'm about to quote. He would write, "The more I look at antis, the more horrified I am at how they don't know what consent is at all. Like they don't even know consent between two humans. How can they even begin to apply that to wild animals? It's becoming clear to me that the whole idea of consent is being warped into something that it's not to suit these antis and their agenda, when most of these people are just kids themselves. Kids can't consent. They don't know what consent is. Why are they saying they do now? Because clearly children not being able to consent means that they don't know what consent is in the first place. Because of course children have no idea how yes or no truly works on the internet. How would they know that there's nuance to consensually abusing an animal? And if that wasn't enough for you, you'd also have Zrcalo falsifying screenshots of the original ZooStruggs, as well as making full-blown call-out videos written with a multitude of false accusations and petty grudges that made their combined watch time of 44 minutes all the more excruciating.
Unpopular opinion. 1. Thought crime isn't a crime, but if you commit a crime, expect to reap the consequences. This goes for sexuality too. Number 2. People who rape, mutilate actual animals and children deserve the lowest pit of hell. Number 3. Pineapple on pizza is an abomination. Basically this whole entire thing, I was saying, artwork isn't real, get over it, and if you actually commit a crime, you should go to jail. Also, I don't like pineapple on pizza. Ah yes, look what we have here. Guess who fell for the bait? It's our good old friend ZooStruggs, the one that harassed my friend. Oh boy, what kind of interaction are we gonna have today? Ooh, let's see what they replied to my post with. Haha, people who want to touch doggos aren't that bad, guys. The people who do touch doggos are the real crime, boys. Oh, by the way, just gonna be quirky dough. Haha, pineapple and pizza, quirky dough. Oh my god, just the way I'm recording this drives me up the wall.
I'm sure it would be even longer if the second part wasn't currently privated. I can't imagine why he would private it though. It's not like the flack he received from these videos deterred him before. But among the disdain for Zrcalo's hit pieces, there was a movement of animal abusers forming to assist Zrcalo in his crusade against ZooStruggs, with Zrcalo making the claim that the mother of ZooStruggs was threatening him, despite having reached out to her himself. A zoophile would call for the users to find info on the ZooStruggs mods and report them to the police. They would essentially use the fact that minors followed that account as supporting evidence, the evidence itself ranging from flimsy to just downright foolish. Unfortunately, this harassment campaign would result in the two original mods having conflict amongst one another, resulting in one mod giving control of the account over to Zrcalo just to spite the other. The point in which this was publicly known displayed in the tweets where Zrcalo effectively doxed the other mod by their first name, in the same breath he claimed to have cleared his name of the many zoophilic allegations being levied towards him. Only it was less clearing his name, and more so doxing someone that had posted a call-out against him. However, with Zrcalo's actions drawing more eyes towards his paper trail of misdeeds, even more call-outs and beware posts would be posted against him, essentially relisting his previous endeavors alongside adding on the newer information. Most notable of these posts would come from the Nazi Fur Receipts Twitter page. Nazi Fur's receipts would do what I described earlier, relist Zrcalo's past misdeeds as they brought attention to his more current affairs, a thread he would attempt to refute by using guilt by association, claiming that because the Nazi Fur Receipts page was on the same side as ZooStruggs, that the Twitter account was collaborating with transphobic, bestiality-sharing pedophiles who suicide bait trans people. Their proof of this being a tweet where the ZooStruggs moderator says that their misgendering of the Zrcalo ally kerfuffles was intentional. Regardless of your stance of making sure we correctly gender predators in our mess, I am sure we can all agree that cutting the context to a post is wrong. I say this because anyone who only saw Zrcalo's screenshot wouldn't have known that the context of this wasn't even aimed at Zrcalo specifically. It was aimed at one of his openly depraved orbiters by the handle of Kerfufflefur, a paraphile advocate openly supporting the rhetoric of animal abuse condoner Toggle the Rat. I'm only aware it wasn't aimed at Zrcalo because I went digging for an archive of the tweet he decided to share and see the legitimacy behind this bold claim, only to find that it would be a morbidly ironic projection given what we'll be getting into near the end of this timeline. As the ZooStruggs controversy began to die down with no real consequence befalling Zrcalo, he would find himself in the spotlight once more. This time, however, it wouldn't have anything to do with zoophilia, at least not directly. You see, in June of 2021, a non-binary furry, known under the alias Near, would allegedly take their own life. I say alleged because there is still yet to be a confirmation of their death other than word of mouth from a friend of Near's, as well as an alleged suicide note that names the site Kiwi Farms as the sole reason they took their life. The reason I mention this information is because, according to Zrcalo, they were also a friend of Near's, and as Near labeled Kiwi Farms for his cause of death, Zrcalo would wage war against the site he himself once used when it came to his zoophile hunting antics. The height of this wouldn't truly be reached until August of 2022, where the political streamer Keffels was heading a campaign to have Kiwi Farms taken down due to the transphobic atmosphere the site had bred. It was during one of Keffels' live streams that Zrcalo would make an appearance in her chat, proclaiming themselves to be one of Near's friends. As far as I can tell, there isn't exactly any definite proof of Zrcalo and Near interacting with one another, but there isn't anything to outright disprove that claim either. But during this stream, you can see Zrcalo sharing similar ideals as Keffels as the two converse with one another, saying that he tells people to not get involved with Kiwi Farms or Kiwi Farms orbiters because once you're in the limelight and interact, you will be their next target. All while neglecting to go into detail about their previous usage of Kiwi Farms when it benefited his zoophile hunting Facade. You can even get a glimpse of the message sent by Zrcalo's soon-to-be-of-age boyfriend, who we'll discuss soon. They were planning to discredit Zrcalo's Kiwi Farms thread by labeling the person who created it as a pedophile. As this was going on, a multitude of users would try to bring Zrcalo's shady history to Keffels' attention, saying that she should ban Zrcalo as his history presents him to be a zoophile. In response to this, Zrcalo would refer to anyone calling him a zoophile as a kiwi farmer, while moderators of the chat would ban anyone calling attention to his past. This would result in multiple chat members asking why Keffals was choosing to promote someone with a history of zoophile association. Her response to this would be to raise her GoFundMe goal due to the mauling of the chat.
Okay, alright. You made me do it because you coped and seethed too much. I have raised the GoFundMe goal to $100,000. Why don't you go complain about that on your fucking stupid forum?
As well as choosing to not believe the claims against Zrcalo because of the information being compiled by Kiwi Farms users.
Oh yeah, I see that, the person who I featured, like who I talked to on the stream, who claimed to be Nir's, friend, and the evidence seems pretty legitimate, but I haven't really looked into it. That is now the top featured thing on Kiwi Farms, because they are incredibly in cope mode right now. That's hilarious. But the thing is, like, I know they lie about literally everyone, so why would I believe their claims? Like, they're calling Zrcalo a necro-zoophile, and it's like, they call everyone everything. Nothing they say is truthful. I have no reason to believe that.
While I don't agree with brushing off information as false simply due to its source, I can understand her take given her life-changing history with this site, to put it ever so lightly. But our focus is on Zrcalo, the person claiming that they've been called everything under the sun because of furry art alone. The person telling a blatant lie as they simply don't mention anything about their history with ZSIS or ZooStruggs. The worst Zrcalo mentions about himself here is that he draws furry gore.
You drew furry gore? Look, I personally think that that's kind of weird. However, I don't think you did anything wrong. I can just choose not to look at the part of the internet where people post things like that. As long as no one's getting hurt, I do not care.
A fair take. Although now I'm curious to see what her take on the taxidermy stuff would be. Also, I don't have access to the exact evidence that was shown to Keffals concerning Zrcalo's connection to Nir, so I can't speak on what she saw. But from what I was able to find, there isn't exactly anything too definite. During the time Zrcalo joined in on the movement against Kiwi Farms, along with these efforts came a rebranding, a new way to gain a sizable following. Along with his now 18-year-old boyfriend Ayaka Nova, Zrcalo would create a gimmick account under the name TransphobicLs. Ayaka would operate under SharkMod, while Zrcalo would be AxeMod. As the page grew, it would gain an additional 2 moderators, that being Dog and Stone, something that strikes me personally as a bit odd given both these new mods were minors. Something you would assume Zrcalo not do given putting minors in harm's way was something he criticized the original ZooStruggs for. The gimmick of this account was posting screenshots of people being transphobic for their audience to mock. One of the first posts made on this account would be Zrcalo claiming to be one of the friends Nir had mentioned in his suicide thread, along with debatable evidence of their acquaintance. Other than this, the account consisted of editing country flags to match the transgender flag's color scheme, the usual posts of Twitter users being absurdly transphobic, as well as posting anti-Kiwi Farm sentiments, both on the TransphobicLs account as well as his main. Much like with ZSIS, Zrcalo would tweet on this gimmick account about how he was responsible for the downtime Kiwi Farms faced during its debacle with Keffals. However, it wasn't where things would begin to crumble apart for Zrcalo. In the start of November, just a few days after Zrcalo could be found lying about being the creator of the Smile Dog creepypasta for whatever reason, users would start to notice something when it came to Zrcalo and Ayaka. What would start as people noticing that the two followed a multitude of zoophiles on their personal Twitter accounts would become acknowledgement of the fact that Ayaka identified as an anti-contact zoophile. For those unaware of what an anti-contact zoophile is, it's like a no-map but for dogs. Anti-contact zoophiles are the group of zoophiles who are against animal abuse and call out zoophiles who abuse their animals. while still being open about their sexual attraction to animals. Where have I heard this before? If I haven't made it obvious already, I'm not exactly very fond of zoophiles in any regard. If you're choosing to publicly identify as an animal abuser, then there's already not much hope left, at least from my perspective. Any step that goes towards trying to normalize wanting to screw the pooch is a step that should be met with the equivalent of stubbing your toe. Regardless, things would soon begin to erupt given the news that this gimmick account with over 10,000 followers could have zoophiles at the head of it. So naturally, they would address the situation by tweeting nothing more than, "We hate dog rapists. That is all." We don't have any dog rapists on our team, by the way, contrary to what rumors say. You see, you can tell the mindset of the two here simply from the wording alone. They say, "We don't have dog rapists on our team," because of their belief that just because someone identifies as a non-contact zoo, that it somehow suddenly negates any negative part of wearing the "I get aroused by animals" label. It sure didn't help their case hiding any reply they could, telling them to remove the zoophile from their mod team, nor did their attempt to go back to posting as normal following this abhorrent response to the backlash. So after acting as if he had just come back from some sort of break from the account, Zrcalo would make a longer statement addressing the zoophile discourse. A statement that unironically uses the phrase, "I came from a very dark place." The first tweet of the thread talks about how he made the gimmick account to fight off an anti-trans account on his own accord. No elaboration as to what this means, but it isn't important in terms of the statement being addressed. That isn't talked about until the next attached tweet, where he continues to ride the lies he tried to base his online presence around, saying, "I came from the anti-community. I came from helping kids get out of grooming situations. I came from investigating ZSIS leaks and investigating Kiro and Sappho, etc." Again, taking credit for things he simply latched onto for any semblance of clout he could. His zoophile hunting efforts would put kids in grooming situations, one of which he would even orbit for his own future relationship. He also came from ZSIS, a group doomed to fail from the start that would hinder any investigation into the ZooSadist logs more than it helped. He says this account was supposed to be his safe place where he could get away from that shit. This account was made to be bigger than just a gimmick account. "It's my home," he writes. This then turned to blaming others for calling everyone a zoophile when the only visible tweets that could be found were one specifically aimed at axe and shark mods. It would then end with Zrcalo saying Ayaka had been removed from the account, along with quote tweeting their own statement on the matter. Ayaka saying, "I no longer am mod for TransphobicLs. I want to get out and help others feel better about themselves, but you're more concerned about fighting each other. I'm sorry, I wanted to make you all happy." What this means other than a failed guilt trip, I can't exactly tell you. But just like the other time, Zrcalo would again attempt to resume adhering to the gimmick, saying, "Anyways, I'm not going to post any more drama. I'm here to run a gimmick account." Right after ominously posting the opening to Carry On Wayward Son. Now this accounts for 2 of the 4 previous mods. So what about Stone and Dog mods? Well, the following day on November 5th, a thread would be posted by Dogmod, giving his statements on the events. They start off by saying that they weren't involved in the account recently, that they stopped posting because they weren't sure what to do. And along with that, StoneMod hadn't been active for a month's time. Dogmod and Ayaka were the only active posters for a time as far as the Dogmod was aware. They would end their statement by saying that they'll stop using the account as well as apologizing for any harm the account had on the transgender community. A somewhat solid statement, but it should be noted that at the time of me writing this, Dogmod has decided to go back to running the account, retweeting a video made by Alonzo covering this same subject, before adhering to the gimmick now that Zrcalo was out of the picture. Dogmod at this time is the only mod on the account. It should also be noted that Dogmod is a minor, as was StoneMod and as was Ayaka when the account had began. However, Ayaka had turned 18 in 2022, on the 21st of September no less. This is when you can notice Zrcalo and Ayaka publicly dating, bringing an explanation as to why the protogen seems so adamant on defending Zrcalo even to this day. Now, as they're both currently adults, it might not appear as legally reprehensible on the surface, yet it should still raise a multitude of red flags concerning Zrcalo's character. as there's something about a newly 18-year-old dating a 34-year-old that just doesn't sit right given Zrcalo's past of putting minors in harm's way. You may begin to question what purpose someone in their 30s could have for interacting with minors in the field of zoophile and pedophile hunting, something he does regardless of greatly disavowing it in his statement concerning TransphobicLs. The answer is almost so infuriating that you can't help but laugh. Loneliness can lead some to perhaps the most vile and most disgusting reaches of the internet. The inability to interact with another person can result in some doing whatever they can to find anybody willing to give them the time of day. Sure, this can lead a person to someone who will introduce them to their future friend group, but it's just as likely this path can lead to someone willing to expose you to the twisted, moralist monsters lurking in fringe corners of the web for their own benefit. The benefits in this case being nothing more than fursona pins and someone to play Minecraft with.
Why are you around some of these nefarious people?
On them before anything. I wanted to get rid of them.
Wait, you've known them before what do you mean by that?
Well, I wanted to play Minecraft. That's all I wanted to do. And I ended up in Furry Valley, and then all of a sudden...
And here I thought I was fucking pathetic. I regret to inform you that there was no hyperbole in that statement of mine. Zrcalo has since been quoted stating that the reasoning behind putting on this predator-hunter facade of his was for clout and fame, namely fursona pins. Let me give you the context behind this discovery. So through this facade of Zrcalo's, he's made quite a few allies in the anti-zoophile community, the majority of which wasting no time cutting ties and critiquing his track record as information came to light. I have even had my own run-in with him upon joining Cord Kitty's hater telegram, where he was gracious enough to share screenshots of Cord calling me an Uncle Tom. But that's a story for another day. Arguably one of the members of the community that he had come closest to was Coyote Lovely, this statement being based on the two being roommates at one point before unforeseen incidents would occur. However, that incident wouldn't be what initially birthed the divide between these two. That can instead be attributed to Zrcalo throwing Coyote under the bus for the attention of hypnotist Sappho. A conversation between the two of them in August which shows Zrcalo admitting to giving Sappho the idea to target and threaten Coyote's loved ones during her Ban Coyote Lovely campaign. More info on that can be found on Coyote's own channel, but looking at these messages personally, like what the what the actual dude? One, why would you even be in contact with someone who threatened to firebomb a friend of yours at the time? And two, if this was your intention, that's just full-on incompetency? And you claim you've done some Fed shit with a backbone like that. With this information, we can fast forward to November 9th, a number of days after the TransphobicLs controversy started. At this time, we can see the two at each other's throats as news of Zrcalo knowingly orbiting Ayaka until they were 18 came to light. This back and forth would result in a video being shared by Coyote, a video where Lio questions Zrcalo on the reason he's done everything he's been accused of.
Refuse to interact with the people accusing you on Kiwi Farms, even if you have damning evidence against them. Instead, you spam a link wherever people accuse you outside of Kiwi Farms, realizing literally nothing about the fact that this does not actually help your case. You interact with minors concerning sexual topics, despite knowing the fact that your previous ZooStruggs account, under its previous owner, got in trouble for far worse actions, because you don't look at the optics of that. You're still operating ZooStruggs accounts, even though people are constantly accusing you of nonsense. For what purpose?
I really, really want fursona pins.
This isn't.
I don't like I'm having a fun time!
I'm sorry.
This
I'm
is
really
not-
sorry. I mean, this is.
I'm not in the mood to joke! This isn't
This
funny!
isn't a joke.
What does the pins have anything to do with any of this?
I, for the first time in my life, found something that I liked.
I like keeping children
You
safe.
are a furry, and this is the first time you found something you liked?
Yeah.
What is it you liked? I'm listening. is it
I'm
like?
trying.
I can hear the cat in the background. The cat is kind of upset right now, so I think that might be something to do with it.
No.
I didn't come in here wanting to yell at you, but when I'm asking you very specific, direct questions and you turn it into a joke, that's not funny to me.
That's not a joke.
That you literally said like the dumbest reason.
I
You
ever.
started
don't care.
laughing afterwards. Do you not understand that that is how somebody sees something as a joke?
Oh, hold on. No, in fairness, I started laughing. I think that was a response to me laughing.
Yeah, the clip kinda speaks for itself in a sense. When asking the reason he put minors in dangerous situations, even discussing sexual topics with them, the only explanation they give for doing so is that they really want Fursona pins. If that isn't a fitting line to end this on, I don't know what is. So on that note, allow me to wrap everything up. I know there are portions of Zrcalo's history that I may have missed, such as the OZA and RZAF, two anti-zoophile groups he worked with under the guise of pro-recovery. While both of these groups are similar to ZSIS, only instead of zoophiles and right-winged furries, it's zoophiles and children, I find myself unable to even summarize how horrid the execution behind these groups were. That's why I'll also be referring you to Cass Warfox's recent interview with Zrcalo, as a number of his victims speak out against him during this, detailing just how vile Zrcalo can truly be, better than I ever could for them. But I hope this video did its job in telling you the tragic things Zrcalo has orchestrated, not to help and inform others, not to keep animals and children safe, but for clout, popularity, and Fursona pins. Stay safe out there.
Funding for this program was made possible by